Hi, my name is Ralph Lauren Paul and I'm your teacher for today. What is screen printing? Screen printing is a process where ink is forced through a mesh screen onto a surface, making certain areas of the screen impervious to printing ink creates a stencil, which blocks the printing ink from passing through the screen. The ink that passes through forms the printed image. Screen printing is an effective technique for creating bold canvases, posters, and artwork, but the method can also be used to print fabrics and textiles. So it's great for creating all sorts of custom clothing and products. Advantages of screen printing: a higher quality output than digital prints, more durable for prints that are needed over a long term, can be used on a variety of different print materials, including glass, wood, textiles, signs, banners, electronics, and much more. It's easy to print on a specified areas of the print materials. Disadvantages of screen printing: more limited color ranges available. The amount of ink used can be made to design look as if it is raised from the print material. It cannot be customized in a manner of digital printing.
Good day, everyone. I am Sir Trinidad, and our topic for today is History of Screen Printing. Screen printing originated in China around AD 221 as a way of transferring designs into fabrics. On the following, the Japanese began using simple stencilling techniques as a way to create imagery. At this time, stencils were cut out of paper and the mesh was woven from human hair. Stiff brushes were used to force ink through the mesh into the fabric. Next is, in the 17th century, silk screens were being used in France as a way of printing into fabric. Also, stiff brushes were still being used as a way to push ink through the mesh. It was here that the practice of stretching silk over frame to support stencil was initiated, but is now known by whom. In the next part is, in the early part of the 20th century, squeegees were introduced as a way of pulling ink through the screen mesh. And as time goes by, in 1938, in New York, a group of artists began experimenting with screen printing as an artist's medium on paper. They coined the term serigraphy. So lastly, in the 1960s, pop artists such as Peter Blake, Andy Warhol, and Robert Rauschenberg used screen printing as an integral element to their practice, thus establishing it and popularizing it as a medium for creating.
Hello everyone, I'm Gladys Reyes. So I'm the one who discussed where to use screen printing. So the screen printing techniques is widely used because it provides vivid colors, even or darker fabric. It's popular techniques used in whole range of different industries. So even if you've never heard of the term before today, it's likely that you're born or use screen printed product at some point without even realizing. So the technique of screen printing is for poster, artwork, but the method can also be used to print fabrics and textile. So it's great for grades all sorts. So there are the examples of the screen printing use. The first is the artworks. Next is the poster. Next is the clothing. And the next will be discussed by Mr. Ropico. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sir Rubico and I will discuss a guide to screen printing equipment. First, we have to get a clean, sharp print. A screen printer needs to have the right tools for the job. Here we'll talk about every piece of screen printing equipment, including the function they serve during the printing process. We have the screen printing press. While it is possible to print with just a mesh screen and squeegee, most printers prefer to use a press, as it allows them to print a lot of items more efficiently. This is because the press holds the screen in place between print, making it easier for the user to swap out the paper or clothing being printed. There are three types of press: manual, semi-automatic, and automatic. Manual presses are operated by hand, meaning they quite labor intensive. Semi-automatic presses are partially mechanized, but still require human input to swap over the items being pressed, while automatic presses are completely automated and require little to no input. Businesses that need to print items in large quantities will normally use a semi or full automatic press, as they allows faster, more efficient printing and minimizes mistakes. Smaller companies or others who do screen printing as a hobby might find that a manual tabletop press, sometimes called a hench press, is better suited to their needs. We have the inks. The inks pigments or paint pushed through the mesh screen onto the item being printed, transferred a colored imprint of the stencil design onto the product. There's much more of choosing an ink than just picking a color. There are a lot of specialized inks which can be used to create different effects on finished product. For instance, a printer may use glittery ink, texturized ink, or puff ink, which expand to create a raised surface to create a unique look or feel. The printer will also take into an account the type of fabric being screen printed, as some inks will work better on certain materials than others. Next, the silk screen printing is a metal or wooden frame with fine mesh fabric stretched over the top. Traditionally, this mesh was crafted from silk threads, but nowadays this has been superseded by polyester fabrics, which offers the same performance for a lower price. The thickness and thread count of the mesh can be chosen to suit the texture of the surface or fabric being printed, with smaller spaces between the threads allowing for gathering details in the print. Once the screen has been coated with emulsion and exposed, it is ready to use as a stencil. After a screen printing process has finished, it can be washed and reused. We have the squeegee. A squeegee is a rubber blade attached to a long wooden, metal, or plastic handle. It's used to push the ink through the mesh screen and onto the surface being printed. The printer will usually pick a squeegee that is similar size to the frame of the screen, as they will give better coverage. A firmer rubber blade is better for printing intricate design with lots of details, as it ensures all the nooks and crannies in the stencil receive an every layer of ink. A softer, more yielding rubber squeegee is often used when printing less detailed design or when printing into fabric. As we had the washing station, the screen need to be washed to remove all traces of emulsion after use, so they can be reused again for future prints. Some larger print works may use larger tubes or of special cleaning fluid or acid to remove the emulsion, while other printers simply use a water through or a sink and a power hose to clean their screen.
Hi, I'm Aldrin Villarosa, and I'm your teacher for today.
Good day, everyone. Today, we are going to learn about the screen printing process step by step. Step number 1. The design is created. To start, the printer takes the design they want to create on the finished product and prints it into a transparent acetate films. This will be used to create the stencil. Step number 2. The screen is prepared. Next, the printer will choose a mesh screen to suit the complexity of the design and the texture of the fabric being printed. The mesh screen is then coated with a layer of light, reactive emulsion, which will harden when developed under bright light. Step number 3. The emulsion is exposed. The acetate sheet featuring the design and then laid into emulsion coated screen, and the whole thing is exposed to a very bright light. The light hardens the emulsion, so the part of the screen which are covered by the design remain in liquid form. Step number 4. The emulsion is ways of creating the stencil. After the screen has been exposed for a set time, the areas of the screen not covered by the design will have turned hard. Any unhardened emulsion is then carefully rinsed away. This leaves a clear imprint of the design of the screen for the ink to pass through. Step number 5. The item is prepared for print. The screen is then placed on the printed press. The item or the garment being printed is laid down flat on the printed board underneath the screen. Step number 6. The ink is pressed through the screen into the item. The screen is lowered down into the printing board. Ink is added to the top end of the screen, and the squeegee is used to pull the ink along the full length of the screen. This presses the ink through the open areas of the stencil, imprinting the design of the product underneath. Step number 7, and the last step. The product is dried, checked, and finished. The printed product then passes through a dryer which cures the ink and creates a smooth, color-fast finish. The final product will be checked and washed thoroughly to remove any residue before being passed to its new owner.
Hi, my name is Bernie L. Sanchez, and as the continuation with our discussion, we will further discuss about the screen printing over other printing process. Now let's start. So the screen printing technology is the most widely used in whole plate printing. Compared with other printing technologies, screen printing has its 4 advantages. So first is it has a strong adaptability. Screen printing can be used not only on the plane but also on the substrate of curved surface, spherical surface, and convex surface. And second is large printing area. Screen printing can be used for large area printing. Nowadays, the maximum range of screen printing products can reach 3M times 4M or even larger. And the third one is it has strong light resistance. Because screen printing has the characteristics of missing printing, it can use all kinds of ink and coating. Not only can it use slurry, adhesive, and all kinds of pigments, but also can use pigment with coarse particles. And fourth is it has thick ink layer, strong three-dimensional sense. So the thickness of ink layer of screen printing is far greater than of the above ink layer. So generally up to about 30 microns. So now you know all the advantages of printing over other printing process. So now let's proceed with our generalization.
So for the generalization, the screen printing process is a fabric printing method that uses a screen to transfer ink onto a substance. Example given is your garment. A screen is made up of a mesh fabric that's covered in an impermeable substance such as vinyl. The design is then created by drawing the screen with a squeegee.